Operation Whitecoat was started as a means for the government to test vaccinations for dangerous diseases on real human subjects. These subjects were gathered voluntarily from the ranks of the U.S. Armed Forces. The ideal subjects for these tests were those of the Seventh-day Adventist faith, for people of that particular religion were willing to serve their country in the draft, but refused to bear arms. They willingly agreed to the testing as a substitute for armed combat in Vietnam. The volunteers, mainly Seventh Adventists, became known as the Whitecoats. The program ran from 1955 until 1973, covering the time span of the Vietnam conflict. In total, 2,200 Adventists participated in the testing, and no casualties were recorded. Born in September of 1940, Robert Thuemler grew up poor but content. He was drafted into the Army in the early 1960s. Trained to be a medic, he served for 2 years. Coming from a Seventh-day Adventist religious background, he joined Operation Whitecoat upon being drafted. The following is an interview regarding his thoughts and experiences.
I am the interviewer, and my name is Emma Harrington, and I am affiliated with New Technology High School in Napa.
I'm Robert J. Thuemler.
He's the interviewee, and we are in his room in the Yountville Veterans Home. So, Robert, can you start off and tell me a little bit about where you were born?
I was born in Eugene, Oregon. I come from a family of 6 boys. We were really poor then. I remember having the bottom of my shoes falling out. And the only pants I had on was the only one I had. And my older brothers always got their hand-me-downs. After a year, they drafted me into the Army. And I was scared to death. I was one scared punk. I went to Fort Ord, California first. That's where I met my best buddy. We're still good friends. He lived up in Eastern Oregon. His name was Chuck Spomer. His dad was a doctor and his mother was a nurse. I met his mother but not his dad.
What did they think about your being drafted?
Well, they didn't say one way or the other. But my mother wrote to me every week for 2 years.
Wow. So you were talking about how you had begun writing a story, or your story, about your basic training. What sort of details were you including in that story?
Well, when I was in basic in medical training, I didn't know what I would do. I was like a little kid, not knowing where to turn to. But like I say, this buddy of mine, Chuck, he encouraged me a lot because I'd say something to him, we talked about it, and we'd both feel better. But we had to do all kinds of climbing ropes and going under these things and across them, and we even had to go out. We never bore arms. We never carried arms at all. But they sent us out to Camp Bolus, which was a place with all desert, and we had to go out there for like 5 days. It was supposed to have been 5 days, but we only out there like 2 days because they had a hurricane that hurt that area. Blew a lot of the trees out, but anyway, they had fire going on over our heads, and we were supposed to get down, and crawl under this barbed wire, and then there was an area where we had to go. It was called, what was it called now? But anyway, the barbed wire was very low, and we had to go 3 times, twice during the daylight and once at night. We had to go when it was pitch dark.
Oh man.
And the only thing I didn't like when I got to the other side, I was all full of stickers. But I made it.
Did any of your other family members ever serve in the military?
No. Well, my younger brother was drafted, but he cannot read or write. Neither can my youngest brother. But anyway, President Johnson thought he could draft these guys into the Army or the military and teach them to read and write. I don't know how long he was in the service, but they gave him an honorable discharge.
Could you, just for the camera, I know we discussed it earlier, but could you sort of define what a white coat is and what that means to you?
Well, like I said, I did not like the Army and I did not like the Whitecoats, but now I'm thankful I stuck with being in the Army because several of my buddies went AWOL when we were in basic and medical training. And then, like I said, I did not like it, but if it hadn't been for Chuck, because we were encouraging to each other all the time we were in the Army.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up then with the filming. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming and listening.
Oh yeah.